Yo, you already know it's Bucket of Love at Reaction Reviews, and we back with another one. You hear me? Listen, boy, listen, man. We got a story today. Man, we about to look into that boy Markee. They say that boy knocked out little Boosie tooth. Yeah, Boosie badass. And I pistol whipped that nigga for 40 minutes. Him. Yeah, we finna get right into it. Y'all stay locked in.
Story about Boosie getting knocked off or his teeth getting knocked out. You ever heard that? Markee felt like Boosie was looking at him crazy and walked over there and hit him, punched him.
Because there's a dude named Markee who apparently, I didn't see the interview, but a lot of people were commenting about this, who claimed that he knocked your tooth out.
Nah.
Listen now.
Vlad, bro. This on Vlad TV lying, bro. That lying. You know Big Markee knocked your teeth out. Hit him with a two-piece. Bow, bow.
Not bow.
The name Big Markee might not ring a bell to most people, but in the streets of Baton Rouge, he was a legend. They called him Mr. Two-Piece because of how deadly his punch was. A punch that allegedly knocked out Boosie's teeth. Some even went as far as calling Markee Boosie's nightmare.
You know, his teeth got knocked out or whatever. He had a grill in his mouth.
But things got darker, tension grew, and the streets did what they do best. Nussie ended up dead, and soon after, Big Markee did too. Let's dive into the story. Markee came out of South Baton Rouge, and in that part of the city, reputation was everything. Markee understood that early, and he built his name carefully. Physically, he was hard to miss. About 6 feet 2 inches, pushing 250 pounds,
big boy.
Broad shoulders, solid frame. He looked like someone you didn't want problems with, and most people knew better than to test it.
Because Markee was big as hell, like he was a big boy. It's like 6'2".
But Markee wasn't just muscle walking around looking for trouble. He was sharp, calculated, and disciplined. He hustled, understood how the streets worked, and never relied on noise to announce himself. Music was part of his world, but it was never his escape plan. He was affiliated with the dope celebrity family, DCF, but he wasn't chasing fame or hoping a record deal would change his life. The streets were his real focus. That's where his respect came from.
I knew Big Markee a long time too. He was another rapper, another street trying to get in, as trying to become a rapper, because he had talent and he may have the resources, but he was a hustler.
His nickname, Mr. Two-Piece, was earned. In Baton Rouge nightlife, conflicts didn't drag out. Things happened fast. Markee developed a reputation as a one-hitter quitter. If someone crossed the line, they didn't get a lecture. They got hit, usually twice. Most people who caught it didn't remember falling, just waking up on the floor trying to piece together what happened. Over time, the nickname stopped being funny and started functioning like a warning sign.
Him as Mr. Two-Piece. And because of the no, because he really would two-piece you up. Like, he was a one hitter. Like, you know, he'll hit you with a two-piece and it was over with. So that was his thing.
Markee wasn't alone either. He ran close with Chris Jackson, better known as Nussie. Nussie was built differently. Where Markee was quiet and intimidating, Nussie was loud, flashy, and unapologetic. He made noise in the rap scene, but not in a way that fit neatly into Baton Rouge's existing power structure. He didn't care about playing nice, following rules, or respecting unofficial boundaries. That rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Together, they represented a part of the city that refused to fall in line. At the time, Trill Entertainment controlled the sound, and a lot of the industry respect coming out of Baton Rouge. If you weren't moving under that umbrella, you were automatically seen as opposition. Markee and Nussie didn't bow to that system, and while outsiders might have thought the tension with Boosie Badazz was about music or ego, that wasn't the real issue. The problems ran deeper than rap. To understand why things escalated, you have to go back to April 3rd, 2005. That night changed everything. Ivy Smith, known to everyone as Lil Ivy, was more than just Boosie's close friend. He was Boosie's backbone, his right-hand man, the street muscle behind Badass Entertainment. Ivy was the one who founded TBG. That night at Club Shenanigans, chaos broke out. A fight jumped off inside the club, the kind of situation that usually ends with bruises and broken egos. But this one didn't stop there. Later that night, a car carrying Lil Ivy, Kevin Ace Henderson, and Joshua Thomas was ambushed. Gunfire tore through the vehicle, and all 3 men were killed. Baton Rouge hip-hop was never the same after that. Boosie was crushed. Almost immediately, names started circulating. People whispered about DCF, about Nussie, about Markee's circle. Whether it was true or completely false didn't matter. What mattered was perception. Some said they were involved. Others said they were disrespecting Ivy's name after his death. In Baton Rouge, that alone is enough to make you a target. To the TBG camp, Markee and Nussie became guilty by association. Once that happened, there was no neutral ground left. The city split clean down the middle. You were either with TBG or you were with the BBG and DCF. Everyone knew something was coming. It was only a matter of where and when. That pressure sat heavy over the city, waiting for a spark. And eventually, that spark showed up at a nightclub called Fahrenheit. Back then, that club was a magnet. Dealers, rappers, hustlers, scammers, everybody who mattered in Baton Rouge nightlife passed through those doors. That night, Boosie Badazz was inside. He was at the height of his run. Records ringing off, money flowing, security deep, confidence maxed out. But Big Markee was there too, rolling with DCF. That alone was enough to change the air. According to people who were there and later backed up by Big Dana from DCF, the energy shifted instantly. Markee caught Boosie looking at him a type of way, and in their world, a look carries weight. So Markee walked straight up to Boosie and let his hands go. 2 clean shots to the face. Exactly how his reputation said it would be.
And Markee felt like Boosie was looking at him crazy and walked over there and hit him, punched him.
Boosie, who was much smaller than Markee, took the full impact before anyone could react. The force stopped him cold. The story that spread afterward became legend. Some said Boosie's diamond grill flew out of his mouth. Others said 2 actual teeth were knocked loose. For a split second, the club went silent. A respected street figure just laid hands on the biggest rapper in the city, right in front of his own people. By all logic, the night should have ended in chaos, but it didn't happen. Whatever the reason, Markee wasn't touched. He walked out alive. Now, Markee didn't duck the moment afterward either. He owned it. He leaned into the story instead of running from it. He jumped on a record with Big Ram called 2 Piece, turning the punch into a statement. The song wasn't subtle. It was a direct celebration of his hands, his reputation, and the fact that status didn't protect anyone.
That's where that bow bow come from.
For people who already hated TBG or felt bullied by its dominance, Markee became a symbol, the guy who humbled the boss, the one who proved Boosie could be touched. But what Markee did couldn't be undone, and it couldn't be ignored. The resentment tied to Lil Ivy's death was already burning underneath everything. That incident poured gasoline on it. From that point on, DCF were marked. Word on the street was that Boosie made a decision after that night. Anyone connected to Lil Ivy's death, anyone tied to DCF, was fair game. While Big Markee embarrassed Boosie in the most physical way possible with that 2-piece, Chris Nussie Jackson was coming at him from a whole different angle. Markee's punch was public violation, but Nussie's approach was way more dangerous. It was mental warfare. According to people close to the situation, Nussie and Boosie actually had a level of mutual respect for each other. They were never friends, never close, but there was an understanding there. The problem was everything around them. The tension in the city, the unresolved street politics, and Boosie's entourage constantly pushing the line made the situation unstable. Eventually, it spilled out.
He really did like Boosie. Nussie liked him. Yeah. And he had a mutual respect for Nussie. It was never any beef. It was his entourage that was always extra with it. It never.
And I'm gonna be real with you. Like, I ain't gonna lie, half the time it be the niggas you with that cause a lot of the shit you get into. You know, you going to hang out with the homies. You know what I'm saying? Y'all going to the club to chill. But look, you know, John got a problem with this one over here. Now all y'all got a problem with him. You see what I'm saying? And you know you gonna ride for your homie. And a lot of times you ain't got shit to do with it. You just riding because your homie got a problem with a nigga. It's crazy. But a lot of times, them same homies that get you into some shit, they ain't gonna be there to back you up. You hear me?
Boosie never said anything. He never did anything. But his entourage always was on 10.
Once it did, Nussie leaned all the way in. He mocked Boosie, played with his name and image, and took things places they didn't need to go. He didn't just diss him, he challenged who he was and what he stood for. And when he started pulling the dead into it, that's when it crossed from beef into something personal and irreversible. He dropped a track called Nussie Badazz. That alone was a slap in the face. He went on interviews downplaying the beef, saying things like, "It ain't no beef like that," while simultaneously releasing songs that questioned Boosie's street credibility. Then he released Street Gossip, and that's where things crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. On that record, Nussie allegedly labeled Boosie a rat. In the streets, that accusation alone is enough to get someone killed. But he didn't stop there. He mocked the death of Lil Ivy, the person whose murder had already split the city in half. Outside the booth, Nussie leaned all the way into it. He moved around Baton Rouge like consequences didn't exist. He printed t-shirts with airbrushed tombstones. He held one up in public that read, "Rest in peace, who's next?" The tension in the city became unbearable. According to street sources, money started circulating, enough to make people listen. The FBI would later receive information suggesting Boosie had put a $30,000 hit on Nussie's head. Boosie wasn't going to handle it himself. He didn't have to. In 2009, he had access to someone far more dangerous than an experienced veteran. He had a kid willing to crash out. Michael Louding, known on the streets as Marlo Mike, was barely 16 or 17 years old. He wasn't an OG. He was young, reckless, and mentally unstable. Police would later describe him as a rogue gunman, someone who claimed he heard voices telling him to kill. That made him unpredictable and perfect for dirty work. Marlo Mike idolized Boosie, looked at him like a father figure. Boosie had even signed paperwork acting as the boy's guardian at school. But this wasn't mentorship in any meaningful sense. This was about loyalty and obedience. When the call came, Marlo Mike didn't hesitate. On February 9th, 2009, the talking stopped. Nussie was at a house on America Street in the mid-city area of Baton Rouge. Nothing about the night felt unusual, but around 11:24 p.m., gunshots shattered the quiet. Marlo Mike didn't act alone. According to later confessions, he was with Michael Ghost Judson, a known heavy hitter connected to the Badazz camp. Ghost played the setup role. He lifted Marlo Mike up to a window, giving him a clear shot inside. Nussie was caught slipping. One shot rang out. It struck Nussie in the head. He was dead on the spot. He was 33 years old. The city exploded with rumors immediately. Word moved faster than police radios. Boosie got him. The bag got dropped. Nobody was surprised. People had been waiting for it. When Marlo Mike was eventually arrested and interrogated, he told detectives a story that only made things darker. He claimed Boosie paid Ghost $15,000 for the hit. As for himself, the shooter said he got $2,000. That alone showed how disposable he was. But the money wasn't even the most damaging evidence. 2 weeks after Nussie was killed, Marlo Mike sat in a tattoo chair. Across his stomach, he got an AK-47 tattooed. Next to it were the words that erased any doubt about intent or allegiance. "Yo Boosie, who's next?"
Wow.
That tattoo was like a confession written in ink. It captured everything about how the situation had spiraled and how a teenager was used as a weapon to settle a war that had been brewing for years. And by the time the smoke cleared, Baton Rouge had crossed a line it could never walk back from. With Nussie gone, everything shifted fast and violently. Boosie was sitting at the highest point of his power, but that spotlight came with heat. Law enforcement wasn't guessing anymore. They were watching closely, stacking evidence piece by piece, building what would later become a capital murder case.
New tonight from Baton Rouge, a prosecutor says rapper Lil Boosie hired a hitman to kill another man after hearing his life was in danger.
But before the indictments landed and before the walls started closing in, Boosie did what he always did. He went back to the booth. He dropped a record with Hurricane Chris called Limelight. And for anyone who understood Baton Rouge politics, one bar stood out. He rapped about someone trying to kill him, then someone stealing his name. He raps, "Dude tried to kill me. After that, a dude stole my name. Feelings gone. Ain't no love in my body." Marlo Mike up in the backseat begging for a body. Everybody knew exactly who that line was aimed at. "Stole my name" was Nussie Badazz. No debate. Then came the line, Marlo Mike sitting in the backseat begging for a body. That sounded like life bleeding into lyrics. But the real tragedy didn't stop with Nussie, and it didn't end with music. That's where Big Markee's story gets darker. Years later, street insiders like Big Dana from DCF started filling in gaps the public never saw. According to them, Nussie's murder wasn't only about diss tracks and disrespect. It went deeper, all the way back to Lil Ivy's death. Word in the streets was that Boosie had allegedly put a blanket green light on anyone tied, even loosely, to Ivy's murder. Once that kind of order gets put out, it moves on its own. There's no recall button. Dana explained it simply. Even if Boosie and Nussie talked things out personally, that didn't mean anything in the streets. Once the button is pushed, you can't stop what's already in motion. By the time any peace talk happens, the missile is already in the air.
Boosie had a hit on anybody who had something to do with Ivy, but it had never made it to the people on that side about that hit not being good no more. It never made it to the people it should have. So when the button was pushed, it's pushed. You can't stop a missile once it's been pushed.
That's where Big Markee comes back into the picture. Nussie was dead. The loudest voice had been silenced by a teenager with nothing to lose and a gun in his hand. Now the attention shifted from rappers to muscle. Markee had embarrassed Boosie in front of the city and lived to tell the story. But in Baton Rouge, surviving the moment doesn't mean you survive the consequences. At the same time, police were tightening the net around Marlo Mike. They were linking him to multiple murders. Nussie, Marcus Thomas, Terry Boyd. But Marlo Mike wasn't the only hitter in the picture. There was another name that carried real weight in TBG circles. Damian Williams, better known as Shortmain. Shortmain wasn't reckless or loud. He didn't chase attention. He was respected because he handled business and kept his mouth shut. In TBG, he was considered royalty, a real stepper who earned his reputation early. By 18, he was already signed to Badass Entertainment. Not because he was chasing a rap career, but because loyalty and violence mattered just as much as bars. While Marlo Mike was being pointed at rappers and outspoken enemies, Shortmain's lane was different. He handled the type of work that didn't need explaining. That bill came due on July 24, 2009. 5 months had passed since Nussie was killed on America Street, but nothing had cooled down. Baton Rouge was tense, quiet in that dangerous way where everybody knows something is coming, but no one knows when. Big Markee was sitting in a car on the 6700 block of Cezanne Avenue. It was a Friday. He was 31 years old. According to police reports and street accounts, the hit was clean and direct. Shortmain allegedly pulled up with at least one other person, and Markee was shot to death right there in the vehicle. Police moved quickly. They framed the killing as retaliation for an earlier shooting involving Markee and someone connected to the Badass camp. That explanation worked for reports and headlines. But in the streets, everybody knew what it really was. This wasn't random. This was the final receipt for the two-piece. More than a year later, in October 2010, police arrested Shortmain and charged him with second-degree murder and illegal use of a dangerous weapon. And Shortmain did exactly what people expected him to do. He stayed silent. He didn't fold, didn't cooperate, didn't give the district attorney anything solid to build on. Witnesses disappeared. Stories changed. Evidence went thin. Eventually, the charges tied to Big Markee's murder were dropped. Shortmain walked away from the accusation of killing the man who punched Boosie. For a moment, it looked like he beat the system, but the streets don't forget. In 2013, Shortmain was involved in a violent kidnapping and robbery in the Glen Oaks area. A man was forced into a vehicle, robbed and shot 3 times while trying to escape. That case stuck. This time, there was no slipping through the cracks. Shortmain was sentenced to 40 to 60 years in prison. With Markee gone, the last loose end from the Fahrenheit Club incident was officially gone too. And just like with Nussie, Boosie didn't let the moment pass quietly. On the song Untouchable, Boosie dropped a line that felt more like a headstone than a lyric. He warned people to keep their hands to themselves, then followed it up by saying all that Mr. Two-Piece talk was over with. He rapped, "Keep your hands to yourself. It'll get ugly, B. All that Mr. Two-Piece ish is over with." But the most haunting part of Big Markee's story isn't the punch or the way it ended. It's something he said himself. In rare footage recorded before he was killed, Markee was asked about the life he was living. He looked straight into the camera and said, "You have to take it seriously, or it'll get taken from you faster than you expect."
You really gotta take it seriously to get to the front quicker than what you think.
That's right. How many times you got hit?
Got hit 1 time.
When he was asked if he thought he'd make it out alive, he hesitated. That pause said everything. He understood the rules. He knew how this usually ends. In Baton Rouge, there's no clean exit from that life. You don't retire. You either get locked up or you get removed. And as for Boosie, he eventually beat the capital.
Hey. Y'all make sure y'all jump in the comments and Let me know if y'all gonna bucket or love it, man. Yeah, man, the streets don't love nobody, man. Like, you know, I mean, when you sign up for this shit, you know what it come with. Everybody do. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody perfect. You know, but there come a time where you gotta know your value. You know, a lot of people live just to prove something to other motherfuckers in their circle, bro. And them same motherfuckers you approve yourself to probably ain't got your back. Pay attention to that. Stay aware. Stay wise. Tighten up. I'll be right back.